on this Tuesday
No
morning, October 15th. It's, you know what that is? It's time for quarterly tax estimate. You know, you have to do those on the quarter. October, January, April, and July. Hey, Rob Brown and Brendan Martin here with you. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to get into why is there so much damn parity in college football this year. And Brendan, we know that we got the portal. We know we got the NIL puck, hockey puck. We got a lot going on. Ben Troop checks in with us first. Then Yancey Porter from Rebel Yell Hotline and Rodney Mortimer, Insider. And last night had the general manager of Ole Miss football as the speaker, and eye-opener we covered. And I also want to say something about a new sponsor. It's we're really proud to have starting here October 15th, Landers Ford in Collierville, Tennessee. Brad Bellamy, the general manager, will join us here later during the week. But what an honor! This is just a great automotive group located at Poplar and Houston Levy out in Collierville. You can't miss it right there on that corner. They're open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., closed on Sundays. Service department, 8 a.m. 6 p.m. They are first-rate people. They are all over the Mid-South. You can buy a car or
give me a new truck. I need a new truck.
Yeah, and they'll deliver anywhere. You can order. Go to Landers Ford Collierville on the website. Again, Brad Bellamy, the general manager, will be on here to talk about. He's a big college football fan, Memphis and Alabama. Talk about all the opportunities you've got for cars, trucks, and SUVs. The Landers name, if you didn't buy your last vehicle at Landers, you probably paid too much. It's their slogan. Really proud to have them. Also, want to say something. I was out at Hewlett and Dunn yesterday afternoon. Wow, that's all I can say. The new stuff is coming in, 30 or 40 boxes a day. Great looking hats like my man Brendan has. Also, we've got duck heads out there. Filson, SDS.
Not real duck heads.
Yeah, they've got
more
duck
actual duck heads.
Yeah, it's like the 80s again.
Brand.
They have brought them back. So lots going on out there at Hewlett and Dunn. Charles Hall and his wife Laura and Raven and JM, Squidward, everybody out there. They're just great people to deal with. Hewlett and Dunn, boot and clothing company on that historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hey, boom, pow.
Pow.
Brendan.
Pow.
Let's get
the
big guy.
Let's talk to the troop.
Let's get the big guy out of here from Swainsboro, Georgia. Went to high school over there in the big metropolis of Augusta. And Ben, last night, I'm at the Touchdown Club in Memphis. Our guest speaker, get this, is now what they call the general manager of Ole Miss football. He's been at Texas with Steve Sarkisian the previous 3 years. And he said, for the first time, my job title is accurate. He goes, I generally manage everybody, including all the coordinators. Also, I talked to Dan Williams and Malcolm Rawls. They played football at Tennessee 05 through 09, both redshirted, played 5 years. Dan was a first-round pick of the Cardinals back in the fall, or actually April of 2010, and I'm going to have Dan on the show with us. I told him about you. I think I'm going to have to get you on the show with them just to talk about your experiences as a student-athlete and all the great stuff that you have done since you hung up your cleats, because you still work out every day and stay in great shape.
Hey, do you work out, man?
Yeah. That's a lot of that's natural.
Do you work out?
Unfortunately, I do. I mean, it's not something I like to do, but my wife, she don't mind telling me, you've been to the gym in a couple of days. So yeah, I do try to keep it tight.
I can tell.
I'll tell you something. Dan Williams is doing. He's got a foundation to get to young kids for reading and literacy. To get them up on the level. So there's a lot of great stories out there. Student athletes, and they go on, and some of them like you and Dan and Malcolm, blessed to play in the NFL, but they come back and they invest, and really there's some great people out there is what I'm trying to say. Ben, let's try to make sense out of this scrambled mess called college football, the SEC. I want to focus today on the parity. And, we talked this summer about the 2s and the 3s that used to stay at these top programs around the country to be developed. A lot of them are punching that portal button and saying, let's go see what's behind, door number 3. And hey, they're gone. every weekend. I don't like that term upset, but it's pretty damn fun. And if you're the TV people, you got to be loving these numbers.
Oh yeah, and the parity in college football, as you mentioned, Rob, people don't like it because they're not used to it. We've grown accustomed to it. We know who's going to be the best team. We know who's going to be bottom feeders. We know we're going to be second tier. And you look at a team like Vanderbilt. They beat Alabama, and people think, okay, that's their Super Bowl. They're going to have a letdown, next week against Kentucky. No, they're 4-2 right now, and you look at a team, like Tennessee. Yeah, they suffered a loss against Arkansas. They was able to get a big win against my Gators. They playing well. Alabama has won the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been pretty, but they find a way to get it done. What I like the most about college football now is we're forced to watch teams we normally wouldn't watch. We're forced to cover teams we normally wouldn't cover, and they're pretty good. It's not like you're watching a bad team. They're pretty good. So I just think that for me, I'm looking forward to more of these games, and I will see what happens down the road.
Ben, I was talking to Dave Tompkins. He was on the show with us yesterday. Our good friend from there in Mountain Brook, went to West Point, big Army fan in Alabama. But look at this story. For the first time since Dwight Eisenhower was in the White House, both Army and Navy are ranked in the same season. How about that for a cool storyline?
I mean, Army and Navy being ranked, both undefeated right now. Yeah. And I think what's great for college football is one of those, I hope one of them make it into the top 12. We'll see what happens. I hope one of them do make it. But nobody wants to deal with Army because of how they play football. You don't want to deal with that offense. And when people getting away from the triple or the option, everybody want to go spread. I think it's great. The greatest rivalry in college football is Army-Navy. Nothing against, the Iron Bowl or the Egg Bowl or the Red River rivalry, Florida, Georgia, or whatever you want to call it. You go to Army any day of the year. It could be in the middle of the spring. Hey man, how you guys doing? Beat Navy. You go to Navy, how you beat Army. That's their slogans. And yep. I think it's great for college football for this reason. We get so caught up in the blue bloods, the normal powerhouses, and we don't even, and that makes us not even want to watch the other teams. Like we won't even watch them. We won't know about what goes on. We watch in Colorado. We started watching Colorado because of Deion, because of his, persona and his, and his aura. Shadur Sanders is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the country. Travis Hunter is the best player in the country, even though there's a freshman receiver at Alabama that they will have something different to say with Ryan Williams. But I like the fact that we are watching. Think about it, Rob. You're watching teams that we've never watched. I get it. We're going to watch certain stuff because ain't nothing on. But you're like, hey, man, I want to see this Minnesota team. Oregon beat Ohio State, not because Ohio State isn't good. It's just that Oregon is better, even though the young man had a bonehead play at the end of the game. We're watching all of college football now, from East Coast to West Coast to the Midwest, and you're getting quality football. Somebody said this, and I agree. They said, is the NFL games just down this year? I go, nope. College football is just better as far as like viewing. They're not better players.
That's right.
It's just better viewing options, and I like it. Like I say, Vanderbilt is 4-2, and they're an impressive 4-2. Who have they beat? Alabama. Alabama that beat Georgia? Yes. Well, who they beat the next week? Kentucky, who should have beat Georgia, but they
beat Ole Miss.
Who beat Ole Miss. And that's the thing. And listen, the people out of Oxford going crazy right now saying what's going on with Ole Miss? Expectations. Everybody's watching now. You went from 10-2 to 11-2. Is this the year you go to Atlanta? No, because Texas is undefeated. Alabama still has one loss. Georgia still might be the best team in the country, depending on what weekend it is. And not just the SEC, but I just like the fact that guys around the country are getting their just dues. They're not making excuses. If you are the head coach in Auburn, stop talking about these programs that have less talent but are doing well. Kentucky, they or what Coach Drinkwitz is doing up there in Mizzou. You're in no position at this point because what happens is when you're not playing well as a blue blood, like a Florida, like an Auburn, what happens is Mizzou, they're not caught up. Kentucky, they're not caught up. Doesn't mean that they're a better program, but while we're not focusing on them, they in the gym, they working out, and then when y'all meet each other on a Saturday afternoon, they'll say, wait a minute, Kentucky is 3-0 the last 3 years against Florida. Florida got Kentucky this weekend for homecoming. Kentucky, like, y'all gonna pick us for homecoming? Really? So,
yeah.
But I love it though. I like chaos more than anything because it's one of my favorite movies. You know, what was Batman Forever or Batman Returns when they had Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger, he's playing the Joker. And he says, listen, he says, no one goes crazy as long as everything goes to plan. As long as everything is a part of the plan, no one goes crazy. Well, this ain't a part of the plan. Somebody didn't tell Vanderbilt. Somebody told Ole Miss, oh, y'all going to Atlanta this year? Yeah, we'll see about that. And I love it, Rob, because like I say, this is only week 6? And
week 8 coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, I'll throw something at you. You're right about the chaos. You've got 32 NFL teams, all right? You got 134 Division I teams. And our friend John Hartwell, the athletic director at ULM, we talked Thursday night. He called me. He said, before the season started, ULM was ranked 134th out of 134 Division I schools, all right? Said they brought in that coach, Bryant Davis. We had him on the show about 5 weeks ago. He's been around. He was at UAB as the interim coach, but they chose to go with Trent Dilfer. That ain't working out. I don't, and so Bryant Davis, Bryant Vincent, Vincent Bryant, he's unbelievable what he's doing down there at ULM. And now they're like ranked in the 50s, maybe higher out of 134. They've got a T-shirt that says PTW LFG. Prove them wrong and list fast go. You know what I'm talking about. But that shows you the power. You come in and get these guys to believe anything's possible. And they're on the way to bowl eligibility. But once they get to that 6th win, you got to get more. Ole Miss, the GM last night at the Touchdown Club in Memphis said, this is what I totally agree with. It's a sign of how things have changed at Ole Miss. They haven't won in Baton Rouge against LSU since 2008. All right? They're mad as hell that they lost. How many ways could we have won it? That's a sign that your program has come up. And you're right about those expectations. Lane Kiffin, what he's got to do is tell those guys, hey, we're still in it. And I heard it last night. Hey, we're going to see 9-3 teams. Remember, we had the 9-7 Giants beat the Patriots in 2007. The great catch. Ben, for the average fan around the country, you're right. I love it because college football being good around the country is great for the morale and the spirit of the United States of America. God bless America. I really do. I think it's fantastic for the country. And TV people, they're loving it.
Oh, yeah. Expectations, is everything. Meeting those expectations is the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to do because now, Rob, right, teams are winning. Now it's all right. Now it's okay. Okay, so now y'all winning. Can y'all sustain it? Oh, can you beat this team? Can you maintain the momentum? Can you win a game? Because I think Lane Kiffin is a great example. Lane Kiffin has Lane Kiffin has always been seen as a great offensive mind. But when he was a coordinator, offensive coordinator at Alabama, head coach of Tennessee, head coach of USC, I got coached under Lane Kiffin for those 8 games when he was out there with the then Oakland Raiders. Lane Kiffin knows this though. Hey, Lane, yes, sir. When you gonna win the big one? See, the hardest question to answer is the hardest game to win. That's how it goes. And for him, he's got to do it. And I know it's like, well, dude, they went 11-2. Yeah, but what did they win? And I'm not saying they didn't have a great season, but what classifies as a great season at Ole Miss is not the same as a great season at Alabama. I want the great season to be what nationally it is, not what internally it is. Florida played UCF a couple of games ago. UCF has a NCAA recognized national championship. It's not real. It's not a real championship.
Well, here's the thing with Ole Miss last year. They lost to Alabama by 7 or 10 in Tuscaloosa, and they lost to Georgia 52-17. Wow. That's what people remember. They got 11 wins, but I'm with you. You got to win. You got to bring home trophies and championships. That's what your fans – because now Ole Miss fans in the last 4 years have had a 10-win and an 11-win. Last year, was the most games Ole Miss has ever won in school history, 11 in a regular season. At Alabama, if they win only 11 games, they're pushing DEFCON 5 panic button. All right, let's talk about this. We're going to have Yancey Porter and Rodney Orr on here in the second half hour from Rebel Yell Hotline and Tider Insider. I look at what has happened. Ben, let's start going down some games. All right, this weekend, Alabama goes to Knoxville to take on Tennessee. Alabama's won 16 of the last 17. Let's see, 15 out of 16, 16 out of 17. Yeah, 16 of the last 17. What do you think is going to happen up in Knoxville based on what you're seeing? And what do you think Alabama lacks that they had last year that they don't have this year other than team discipline?
They don't have
in terms of focus and stuff like that.
They don't have Nick. People ask, why does Nick Saban coach the way he coached? Because he coaches harder when they're winning than when they're losing, because he knows mistakes will creep in. Complacency will creep in. Getting used to winning games will creep in. The thing about Alabama, they're going to have to ask, Jalen Milroe going to have to ask himself, hey, man, how serious are you taking these games and these moments? I'm not saying you're not, but no team is good enough to put the ball on the ground, to give the ball to the other team. No team is good enough. Tennessee, that young quarterback they got, he came to Tennessee hearing about Tennessee can't beat Alabama. Tennessee can't beat Florida. Tennessee can't beat Georgia. What? Well, that's when I wasn't there. And I think the thing, Alabama this weekend, Alabama's going to have to ask themselves, who are we for real? We are Alabama. We got the A on the side of the helmet. We are the creme de la creme. We are, we send more players to the league than 10 teams combined in college. But that's who we've been. Who are we now? Because the thing about a Jalen Milroe is it's real similar to a Bryce Young. Bryce Young won the Heisman at Alabama. He didn't win a Natty. Now, he won a Heisman. He's the only quarterback to ever win a Heisman. Every Heisman Trophy winner at Alabama got coached under Nick Saban. Ingram, Henry, Smith, and you got Young. If you ask Bryce Young, what are you most disappointed with your career? We didn't win a national championship. What? Alabama, you win national championships. Well, Jalen Milroe wants to. I don't want to get invited back to Alabama because I played quarterback at Alabama. I want to get invited back because it's an anniversary team of winning the national championship. Because that's the standard down there. If you are Tennessee, you are saying, hey man, you see how Vanderbilt, beat Alabama? Yeah, we want some of that. Why? We don't want to. We are the flagship school in Tennessee. Yeah, we're the other school in Tennessee. Nothing against Vandy, but I think for Tennessee, they're going to ask themselves, hey, if our offense is sputtering, can our defense keep us in the game? Because last week against my Gators, I don't know what went on with that Tennessee offense, or maybe Florida defense is going to play. They're gonna. It always comes down to each chapter. Every week in college football is a different chapter of this book called the 2024 season. But what's crazy about this, Rob, I really don't know, because this isn't an Alabama we've grown up to know. Alabama could struggle against UCF 2 years in a row with Saban.
USF, that was ridiculous.
I'm sorry, USF. Yeah. This year, when Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, right? This wasn't no fluke win. Vanderbilt controlled that game from start.
Yeah, they did.
Is it gonna be the Alabama that played against Georgia? That could have lost that game, by the way, but they didn't. Ryan Williams just took off his cape and said, hey, I'm the best 17-year-old football player in the world. Yeah. And I'm gonna show you why. Or is Tennessee gonna say, is Hendon Hooker, is Milton gonna call, Ian, this new quarterback and say, hey man, you want to become a legend in Tennessee? Yeah, you beat Alabama. Why? Because that don't happen often. The best Tennessee quarterback in Tennessee history, Peyton Manning, never beat Florida. So every time he talks to SEC, they say, you ain't never beat Florida? No. Right? That's a sour taste. Everybody wants to know, am I good enough individually, and can I help my team collectively beat the teams that nobody wants to play? And that's why we watch.
Yeah, no, and I just wanted, because I've got several more to get to while you're with us. Great point, and it drives Tennessee fans crazy, the Florida factor. And you've got a lot of rivals when you're Tennessee or Florida or Auburn or Alabama, whatever, that you've got to beat, because your fan base, like Georgia is broken down into South Georgia, that's Florida, North Georgia, more Tennessee, Northeast is Clemson or South Carolina, Southwest, more Auburn. But that's the incredible thing about these rivalries. All right, Arkansas, LSU up in the hills in Fayetteville. All right, LSU, they put a lot of money. What about $16 million into this new staff on defense? They brought in the guys from Missouri. They brought Bo Davis back from Texas. I really believe had Bo Davis gone back to Alabama, there's a good chance Nick Saban might still be coaching. That's how big a deal. Bo played, though, at LSU. LSU did not lead for 1 second until the end of the game in overtime when they beat Ole Miss Saturday night. I think it's a 1-point line Saturday night in Fayetteville. What is going to happen in the eyes and the mind of 84 Reasons Ben Troop?
Coach Sam Pittman knows that Arkansas, just like Georgia, just like Auburn, just like LSU, they different at home. Ask Tennessee how different they are at home.
Yeah.
Right? Coach Bobby Petrino said, give me some players that's willing to learn this arithmetic known as my offensive scheme, and let's go out there and run this thing. And Brian Kelly knows this. If we're watching Lane Kiffin every week, you know we're watching Brian Kelly. We're saying, hey, man, I thought you left Notre Dame because you was going to win a championship at LSU. Why y'all saying? Because all the three coaches before you won national championships, right? I think what's scary about this team, what's scary about this game for LSU is if LSU start making mistakes, Arkansas beat them, because Arkansas understands they're gonna use that. They're gonna use that home field advantage. They're gonna use the fact that they know that this LSU team, they got flaws, and they got flaws. As far as like their defense. Every defensive coach with LSU was different this year. They fired everybody from last year. And I think that's the thing about LSU too. When LSU decides to play, they can play with anybody. But sometimes, Rob, we get caught up in. It's like, Rob, you out jogging, you out duck hunting, you just check ESPN, you go, why is LSU losing to Arkansas? Huh? Because in our mind, that's weird. LSU was losing to Arkansas. And it won't be by 3 points. It'll be double digits heading into the fourth quarter. So for me, Arkansas going to have to ask themselves. Sam Pittman going to have to say, look, do I want to have what Kentucky has, what Mizzou has, what Vanderbilt has, and being the team that nobody expect to do it, but we're doing it? It's what we did against, Ole Miss, or what we did against Tennessee. Is it a fluke? It's not. But LSU, coming to town, lets them know, hey, we want to be talked about in the now. We got to win now. If we don't want our legacy to be what we shoulda, coulda, woulda, had we not, we got to do it right now. And like I said, as a person, I played Arkansas one time in college, and I played them up there. One of my best friends in the world, Titus Peoples, another Swainsboro native, two Swainsboro boys on the same field together. We were beating them convincingly, and they almost came back when they had Matt Jones at quarterback and Sean Andrews at tackle. I mean, they had some players, right? They had some players. Cedric Cobb at running back, and Batman
Fred
Carroll.
Talley,
Batman Carroll at cornerback.
Yep.
They were coming back. The only thing that helped us was the time, where they just ran out of time because they were going to come back. Tony Bua. I like Arkansas in this matchup because I think what Arkansas could do to LSU is expose where they are weak at. And I think what LSU is weak at is what a lot of teams are. They don't have an in-between. They're either really, really good or they're really, really bad. And I think for Brian Kelly, people are going to be saying, hey, man, where's our return on investment? Your first year in the SEC, you going to the SEC championship game. Haven't been much to talk about since. And I'm always saying this about LSU. LSU is good when they have a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. When they don't, they okay. They're not bad. But when they got a Heisman, Jay Daniels, Joe Burrow, they're special because of what that player can do. But I'm looking forward to Arkansas finding a way. LSU to me is a better team on paper. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But 2024, you can throw that paper stuff to the wind. I think Arkansas gonna make a game of this thing.
Look, a couple of more questions real quick before we let you go, because I've got to get into the Ole Miss and Alabama. I want to ask you this, in your opinion, and we'll do this again next week. When you look around the SEC, South Carolina is intriguing. I mean, damn, they had LSU until they didn't. They had Alabama until they didn't. That's a mental thing, isn't it, with Carolina?
It is. Beamer ball got to find a way to finish games. See, what happens is, Rob, you can't be surprised when you actually doing what you game plan to do. Hey, we game plan to be in this game, right? Oh, man, we had Alabama. Yeah. So when you get to, it's like this. If you the quarterback of South Carolina, you should expect to get the onside kick. Hey, man, I'm expecting to go back out there. Why? And when I do, I can't throw it. I can't do that. I can't do that. If you are Coach Beamer, you understand that, look, man, that's what's so frustrating about me as a coach and us as a team. We look it up like, do we about to beat Alabama? Yeah, well, you didn't. And sometimes that sets your program back farther because those, man, we had them. And it's hard for an 18 to 22-year-old to let that kind of stuff go. Have a short memory. But they got to have a short memory because I believe South Carolina, let me say this. There are no more bottom feeders in the SEC because they can beat these people. But they got to beat them. Because Vanderbilt said, I don't know about them. We did our part. We win it. But South Carolina going to have to find out who they really are as a team because pretenders happen every Saturday. But, Rob, they're going to have to go out there and contend and find a way to get that win. Not people turn the TV off because they said they won this, will turn the TV back on, and they lost.
All right, crazy question. Last one, and I'll let you go. Man, this is great stuff, Ben. I love having you on because you are genuinely one of the brighter people that know football. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt, they win 8 games or more. The way he's played, what he's done for this team, and then I got to think about the quarterback at Army and the quarterback at Navy. But I'm going to speak about Diego Pavia. Vanderbilt, God, if they beat Texas, the world may stop spinning correctly. But he's in New York. I think he wins. That's a great story in college football, not just to do it, but who is more representative of the Heisman Trophy, the way he's elevated his team. It's not just him, but Jerry Kill and all the stuff that's going on at Vanderbilt. You're right. That wasn't a fluke when they beat Alabama, but could he win the Heisman Trophy? Would you vote for him?
I will vote for him. The only player I will vote over him right now is the running back from Boise State. That kid there is Jesus Christ. He's on another level. But once again, if Davio is in New York, he don't got to say a word. The fact of the position he plays and and the conference that he plays in, they're gonna say, "Hey man, let's just go through the resume." If he's sitting down in front of the Heisman Trophy voters, they're gonna like, "Hey man, what you got? Alabama, Kentucky." Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. And it's going to keep going on and on and on. They're going to say, wait a minute. And he's going to say, and John Franklin is not my head coach. What? No. This ain't, look. And he'll say, here's the thought. Go ask Jay Cutler if he would have wanted my resume. Jay Cutler, first round draft pick Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler wasn't doing stuff like this at Vanderbilt at all. He couldn't even, and it wasn't, because like I said, Davio represents this. Every player wants to say who was the player that changed the whole course of the entire program. Davio can do that. He can say, hey, man, we're not too many years removed from Vanderbilt beating Tennessee every other year. Now, that's not happening right now, but Davio, this is what Davio is really doing. He's saying, hey, I get it. I'm not on the sexy team. The sexy team, wears that Tennessee orange. They're in Knoxville. Yeah. But I think I'm better than the guy in Knoxville. Now, I'm not going to say that publicly, because I'm respectful to the game. But here's the thing. If Tennessee loses to Alabama and Davio beat Alabama, what? I mean, what they going to say? Because I remember Diego's tough. I mean, he's the guy you want in your locker room. If you get in a fight, I mean, I want that guy on my side. He thinks he's the best team, the best player on either team every time he steps on the field. What's not to love about that?
That's how I feel when I'm on this show.
I mean, when they was interviewing him after this recent win against Kentucky, he's looking at the interviewer like, "Why are you so surprised?" Because he's like, he's like, "Don't blame me for teams I had nothing to do with. I wasn't on those Vanderbilt teams, and nothing against those guys. Those guys ain't us. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Listen. I can say I beat Alabama forever. So if I got a shirt, if I'm Diego, I got a shirt to say I beat Alabama. So before you open up your mouth to me, ask how many people can say that. Ask Georgia. The last time they beat Alabama and everybody wasn't hurt. They had it.
Yeah. Alabama's won 9 of the last 10 against Georgia. 9-1 in the last 10 games. It's crazy. Ben Troop, tell people how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work. Absolutely love having you on here. You're an awesome dad. Audrey loves you, man. She goes, that guy is, because she works with young kids, and she just thinks that you hung the moon. But tell them, and we'll do it again next week.
Oh, I always at Ben Troop 84 on all social media outlets. Check out 84 Reasons. No weddings in the fall and winning the division. just trying to make it happen.
I totally agree with you, man. You give people 84 reasons to smile too, man. Have a great rest of your week, okay? All right, thank you. All right, look, we're going to bring in Rodney Orr and Yancey Porter here in just a second. Brendan, you know, the Heisman Trophy, I don't know, your dad, how many years did your dad vote on the Heisman Trophy? Any, like, is he still voting for the Heisman Trophy, Brendan? I don't know. You know, I just can say that when if you have a vote for the Heisman Trophy, you that's a hell of an honor. And a lot of people, I don't think people realize the gravity, but the Diego Pavia story at Vanderbilt and Bryson, a quarterback at Army, and the Navy quarterback, these are the kind of stories that are happening. And as Dave Tompkins said yesterday, here are two schools, Army and Navy, who really cannot benefit, they can't, from the transfer portal and NIL. You don't just casually drop by for a cup of coffee at a service academy. They don't take applications like the Marine Corps billboard says. They only accept commitments. But Brendan, let me ask you again. How many years did your dad vote for the Heisman Trophy, and what was his most difficult decision ever in selecting a Heisman winner? Yeah, Brendan, you know, I just think that's got to be that's one of the coolest stories out there is who votes for the Heisman and how they go about voting for it, because it cannot be an easy decision. And I really think that this year, you know, there is not a clear front runner. It's like the flavor of the week. You'll hear Jalen Milroe. He's the man. It's all about Jalen Milroe. And then you'll hear somebody else gets hot. I think voting for the Heisman Trophy this year, it's absolutely wide open. It's there's no front runner at all. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch him Monday nights, 6 p.m. Central on the radio and Super Talk Mississippi, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis. Yancey, damn it, Ole Miss lost last play in overtime against LSU Saturday night. Hadn't won down there since 2008, but they won 18 times in history in Baton Rouge. That's a bloody, nasty, hate-filled rivalry. Everything we love about college football. But where do the Rebels go from here? Still got a bunch of games to play.
Yeah, man, you know, as you saw in that game, they made enough mistakes to lose 10 games, you know, last Saturday night. You know, they played like a team that doesn't know how to win, which is so odd considering it's the most experienced team in college football. You got a 3-year starter there at quarterback's a team that's won a lot of games together. You know, and look, let's call it like it is. That should have been 3, 4, 5 touchdown victory for Ole Miss Saturday. And they just, you know, they shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. And you can't do that. You can't do it in Baton Rouge. You know, the first 4 possessions, they had the ball where they were inside the 20-yard line, all 4 possessions, 3 of them inside the 10, and came away with 0 points.
Yeah.
That's not how you start off at
No.
nighttime on a 100-year anniversary of reunion of sorts for LSU at nighttime. They just, you know, they didn't play winning football. And you look at both games that they lost, and they did everything they could to lose those games. Everything went against them. They made mistake after mistake, and they're losing on the last play of the game, and that's the shame about it.
Well, it's the SEC, and we had the new general manager for Ole Miss spoke at the Touchdown Club in Memphis last night, and Billy Glasscock, I think, is that his name?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was really, man, you had your head spinning. It was revealing, to say the least. This guy's got a hell of a resume, like 26 years worth. Comes to Ole Miss after being at Texas with Sarkisian for the last 3 years. And he talked about, as I referred to earlier in this morning's show, that's where Ole Miss football is. They're madder than a bunch of wet hens that they came away with a loss in Baton Rouge versus, man, we played them a good game. The hell with that. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades last time I checked. But
yeah, I mean, look,
that's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's playoffs for this roster and team or bust. A complete colossal, utterly failure if they don't make the playoffs. And now they given themselves, they gave away their two mulligans, so to speak, like you have on a golf course. And, they're in single elimination now. It didn't have to be this way. They could have had still those mulligans in their back pocket and not stressed all the way through. But now, their playoffs start next Saturday. Thank goodness they get a bye. They're so beat up. Four of their 5 offensive line starters have been out. And that's been an issue too, right? I mean, the offensive line has been the sore spot. And, it's no surprise that you got 4 of your 5 starters out. And that's where the issues kind of start up front.
Well, I tell you, Ulysses Bentley came through the other night, and you thought, okay, with him rolling, they'll win. Let's start getting this conversation ginned up, man. Our version of the Grand Ole Opry, we're going to bring in Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider since 1996, folks. Only $48 a year. It's inflation proof. But one thing that there's nothing like it out there is the content, the forums that they put out there. And also, Rodney works his butt off with Gary Harris Tuesday nights at 6:30, Tighter Insider TV. It's year-round content. Rodney, talking about what happened with LSU and Ole Miss last weekend. Alabama had quite a scare against South Carolina. What's your read on the Tide at this point in the season? A lot of tough games left to play, but at least you got the win the other day.
Yeah, it's a lot better to, rather win 27-25 in an uninspiring performance than lose in something that maybe you felt like you looked really good or something. But, I think there's a couple of things here. First of all, transition always has adversity. There's always things that come up. And when you're in a transition like this one, like there probably hadn't been one like this in 40 years, going from Nick Saban to, another coach. I mean, there's a lot of things that come up. A lot. It's tough. And so I think, those are a lot of things that Kalen DeBoer inherited that I think, people talk about undisciplined play. Well, they act like that these things never happened in the last few years. They did. Alabama had a lot of penalties over the last few years. They had games where they had 15, 17 penalties. They had a game last year where they were up on Arkansas 24-6 and had to hold on to win the game. They had a game at Auburn against, let's be honest, it was not a good Auburn team. And they need a miracle throw to win the game. People forget about that. You beat Georgia. You snapped their 29-game winning streak in the SEC championship game. People forget about all those things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Kalen DeBoer, right now, bottom line, they're 5-1. They're in the same exact position in that regard as they were last year this time. I'm not predicting anything by any means. Got a long way to go. Like I said, they got to clean up the undisciplined play, penalties, self-inflicted wounds, avoidable mistakes. Got to clean those things up. And if they do that, that gives them their chances of reaching goals are going to be exponentially higher.
Yeah.
But they also obviously have some issues on defense, Rob.
Yeah. Well, Rodney, and Yancey's been so accurate in his, watching Ole Miss play every game, and you do the same thing with Alabama. It seems to me, Alabama, I'm not used to them giving up so many points. It starts up front on the defensive line. Let's get a temperature check of the Alabama front seven and the depth.
Yeah, as far as the points go, I don't know, Rob. The last few years they have. I mean, they gave up 24 to Auburn, and again, that's some people say, well, that's not a lot of points nowadays. Well, it's really not. But they gave up 27 to Michigan. They've given up. They gave up 34 to Texas last year. They've given up. They've had issues on defense over the last few years, if you want to call them issues, relatively speaking, to the mid-teens when they shut people down.
Yeah.
Games changed. The game's changed a lot. You're not going to hold a lot of these offenses down. I mean, they're going to score points, but they certainly have issues, on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned the defensive line.
Yeah.
I don't know what all's going on there. Some of it might be scheme. I think they've been a little light in the box, the way they play sometimes.
Yeah.
All of those things are certainly factors. I do know one thing, that the defensive line, I was talking to someone who played in the NFL several years, and he said, hey, I observed the defensive line in this game, especially this last game against South Carolina. He said the thing I saw was they don't play with their hands very well. And if you don't play with your hands very well, you got no chance up front. And he said, that's technical. That's something it's teaching, it's coaching.
Yep.
It's something that you have to burn into these guys.
Yeah.
And so with all that said, I think, defensive line certainly, I think, needs to improve.
Yeah. Yancey, let's talk about Ole Miss's defensive front. You over and over said they got 12 defensive linemen the coaches can trust. What's the health of that front seven at Ole Miss right now? Again, you've got off this weekend, and then you got Oklahoma, at Arkansas, at home against Georgia. You're off again, at Florida, and the Egg Bowl on November 29th to end the season.
Well, I mean, it's the defensive front, and the front seven is clearly not Ole Miss's problem. They lead the nation in giving up rushing yardage, and so that's a for sure sound tell right there. Right, nobody's even sniffed 100 yards on them this year rushing the ball.
Yeah.
So, it's that's certainly not the issue. The issue right now with Ole Miss is, again, they're playing like they don't know how to win. They're making mistake after mistake. I think they're 132 out of 134 teams in penalties per game and yardage per game. Lane's bread and butter is what? The offense, and you're bringing back 10 starters off of that offense from last year. That's so dynamic. And look, now again, you've had 4 out of your 5 starting offensive linemen out the last 3 games in SEC play, and that's not easy to overcome. They felt like they had 10 deep there on the offensive line, but they're not playing well as a unit, which is not giving Dart any time to throw the ball. But all their pass plays are slow developing. They're throwing the ball 40 yards down the field on 5-6 Mississippi while Dart's scrambling around. Everybody's wondering, where is the schematics that's made Lane so brilliant? If you're struggling up front on the offensive line, why are you not doing quick hitters? Why are you waiting? Why are you doing, 3-5 step drops and allowing, if your offensive line is having troubles right now? It's the offense that's hurting them, right? They're third in the nation in points given up. They're first in the nation in rushing yardage given up. The defense is not the problem right now. It's clearly on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I want to get back and forth with Rodney and Yancey, y'all asking questions, because this is what I love about having the two of y'all on together. That's why I like to do it this way. But Rodney, you heard what he just said. That's an interesting take. The defense is living up to its billing, and surprisingly, Offense, not so much.
Yeah, no, I think that is. I haven't been able to watch Ole Miss a lot, but good to hear Yancey's take because that is very interesting given Lane's expertise. I mean, he's usually the best. I mean, he can scheme around things probably as well as anyone I've ever seen. I saw him do it at Alabama in 2014. He took Blake Sims,
Yep.
and Blake threw for 3,400 yards and 28 touchdowns that year. And that was it was a fun. I mean, we were scared to death over here. We didn't have a quarterback, and I say we. I'm talking about that was the general feeling among Alabama people, was that the people that covered Alabama and follow them so Lane is brilliant at that. That's why when what Yancey said, it certainly caught my attention. It makes me wonder exactly what's going on with that.
Well, Rodney, what you just said about Blake Sims, he was a quarterback, running back, and then they moved him back. And Kiffin pulled off, y'all most know this, 3 consecutive SEC championships, 14, 15, 16, with 3 different quarterbacks. Yancey, that's the brilliance of Lane Kiffin. And he's just racking his brain right now. What do you think they're going to look like against Ole Miss? What do you see him changing? Because he is a great coach when it comes to scheming and putting his team in a position to win.
Yeah, man, I think they're shell shocked right now. I think they are
Yeah.
still trying to figure out how they've lost these 2 games. Against LSU again. No disrespect to LSU, and look, they improved tenfold defensively during their bye week from what we've seen from LSU. The first 5 or 6 games where people, they were very soft on defense. They gave up chuck yards all over the field, no matter who they played. Even playing directional schools from Louisiana were moving the ball up and down the field, and they played great against Ole Miss. They really did. That was a great coaching job by the LSU staff during that bye week, because that's not the defense that has played all season long. So kudos to their coaching staff. But, Lane and them, they played right into their hands. Their
Yeah.
LSU strength, with or without Harold Perkins, is getting after the quarterback.
Yeah.
They've got great defensive ends. And Ole Miss, again, is played without 4 of their 5 starters for the last 3 SEC games on the offensive line. So you would think they would do more quick hitters, not slow developing plays to allow that LSU pass rush to get to them. And they did.
Yeah.
And then the next biggest thing is, and we've been saying it all season, where is Bentley, right? He got his first carry, of SEC play, and he goes for 50 yards on 4th and 3.
Yeah.
And, they said that there were a lot of theories, a lot of wild things going around, doghouse, and then the latest one was that he had gained 25 pounds and wasn't as fast. And when you see the difference between him averaging 10 yards a carry against LSU versus the feature back Parrish that is averaging just under 3 yards a carry at SEC play, you're like, what in the world's going on? And so look, like I said, the playoffs start for Ole Miss against Oklahoma. All the goals are still out there in front. They win their last 5, they're going to get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they've got to obviously change a lot of things. Now, the good news for Ole Miss is all 4 of those offensive line starters are supposed to be back against Oklahoma.
Okay.
Now they, Bentley is in there for whatever reason. He was not. They see who the most dynamic back is on their offense.
Yeah.
There's some rumors that Charlie Rice has been in total control of the offensive game planning and scheming and play calling on game days. And Lane said he's going to be more involved now during this bye week. And
Yeah.
so there's some theories going around that Lane is going to kind of maybe not take it completely over, but you're going to start seeing some different things schematically. So the pieces are there, and they're coming
Yeah.
back against Oklahoma, and
Yeah.
now they just got to put it together because, like I said, it's single elimination. The next
Yeah.
loss, the season's over, and it will be the most colossal, utterly disappointing season in Ole Miss history if
Yeah.
they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's right. And look, and here it is, Rodney. Alabama goes up in the renewal of one of the greatest rivalries in college football, Saturday on the Hill in Knoxville. Let's talk about how you see that one playing out, strengths and weaknesses for both teams in this matchup Saturday, Alabama, Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, what a game, right? I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I've been following this one since the late '60s. The first time I watched Alabama and Tennessee,
Yeah.
and I still think the game that sticks out to the most to me, Rob and Yancey, is 1990 when
Yep.
Tennessee had all those first round draft picks,
Yeah.
and Alabama was playing with, as Corso said, Alabama was playing with a bunch of high school kids and went up there and beat Tennessee 9-6. But
Yeah.
that's the unpredictability of this rivalry. I've
Yep.
seen crazy things happen in this rivalry. So with
Yep.
all that said, you look at Tennessee. Nico's really struggling at quarterback over the last few weeks. I think his quarterback rating last week against Florida, I may be wrong, but I think it was like 17.
Woo.
And then the week before versus Arkansas when they lost, it was 38. So Alabama fans are kind of complaining about Jalen Milroe, the game he had this past week, threw 2 interceptions, took a safety or intentional grounding in the end zone. So, but just kind of the mistakes that he made in the game, and he still had a 60, 65, 67 quarterback rating. So,
Yeah.
in other words, the point is Nico's struggling a little bit. You know, guys, listen. This game, there's no telling. I mean, one of these two teams might come out and really kind of find themselves in this game
Yeah.
a little bit. Make that would be huge. Whether it's Alabama or Tennessee, certainly on this end, you hope it's Alabama.
Yeah.
But I think this is a game that we're going to find out a lot about. The direction and the future of these two teams, because Yancey said it. One of these teams, they lose this game, they all of a sudden they've got playoff hopes, and they've got 2 losses, so they're one game from elimination. And
Yeah.
then what happens around the SEC, around the country? Some of these teams that have these high aspirations. What happens when they lose that third game and they're probably out of the playoffs? How do the players respond? How many, do guys just suddenly start, not playing with the passion and the intensity and preparation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could see that happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Rodney, I totally agree. And it's what happens in the bowl games when these SEC teams,
exactly.
they go
Yeah.
down there in January.
But it might be happening earlier. It might be happening 9 weeks,
Well,
9 weeks in the season.
Yeah, correct.
the expanded playoffs has now allowed you to get to 2 losses, right? Third
Right.
loss, and unless a miracle happens, you're out. So that's kept more teams alive later in the season. But with Alabama, it's very simple. I mean, Rodney had it pegged, before the season started. They got offensive line problems. They got some defensive back problems. I mean, there's no way they should give up those plays against South Carolina. The quarterback really struggles out there. And it's a little bit of surprise. Their front 7 has been a little soft, and that's really the only surprise of the team. But Alabama, they're in a predicament that they got to have Jalen Milroe play like Superman, and when he does, they're really good, and they can overcome those deficiencies. But Jalen Milroe's, his enigma, his whole career has been he's simply inconsistent. You get the first half of the Georgia game, Jalen Milroe. You get the second half of the Georgia game, Jalen Milroe. You get, spurts, Jalen Milroe against South Carolina, and then spurts, Jalen Milroe against South Carolina. And so because they're not able to have that suffocating defense and that ram it, bam it, rocking, socking running game, they got to have Jalen Milroe play on top of his game throughout the game, and that's just hasn't been him throughout his career. And again, they're going to go as far as Jalen. If Jalen goes through spurts of 2 or 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters, and being really off, it's really difficult for Alabama to win because they're not as superior at those other spots as they've been the last 20 years. But if Jalen Milroe is playing like that first half against Georgia, they, even with those deficiencies on defense and some offensive line issues, they can beat anybody in the country.
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy part. I mean, back in 1990, you talk about Philip Doyle. I mean, I think he was from Springville, Alabama, just north of Birmingham. He kicked about a
He went to Huffman. Yes, Huffman High School.
Huffman in Birmingham. Yeah, and I just remember a friend of mine. She was from Springville, Alabama. She was a Tigerette. Tried like hell to recruit him to Auburn. He kicked it. Alabama won 9-6. I know exactly where I was, right by the drill field at Auburn, and nobody gave Alabama a chance in that game. Remember Dale Carter was at Tennessee. That team was loaded. Man, what a weekend,
Oh
guys!
yeah,
And
they had 2 first-round offensive tackles. They had
yeah,
several. The Dale Carter was NFL Rookie of the Year a year
yeah,
later.
yeah,
I mean, you could go on and on and on about some of the defensive players that they had, the offensive players.
yeah.
I mean, they had great receivers. Alvin
Yes,
Harper.
yeah.
Many of those guys that you remember.
Carl Pickens
But Carl
came in
Pickens he was really good.
out of Murphy, North Carolina.
And I think those guys in that game, this show you the greatness of Bill Oliver. In that
God,
game, all those great receivers they had, I think, caught one pass
yeah.
in that game.
Brother Oliver is the greatest, in my opinion, it's the greatest defensive coordinator in the history of defensive coordinators. I think he's that
He
good.
certainly was good. And it's not really fair for Milrow too, because it's it's difficult to play at a very high level all the way through games, right?
It is.
And then he's going to get a lot of the blame if they lose some more games, because it will most likely be because he went on top of his game. But it's a team game, and that is a perfect example of why it's a team game. He shouldn't have to carry the whole Alabama team, but that's where they are right now.
Yeah,
And the good thing about Alabama and Tennessee is they both still got one loss, right?
yeah,
They can still get that one more loss. So it's not an elimination game for either team coming up this Saturday. You certainly don't want to give away all your mulligans like Ole Miss and
yeah,
then have to go undefeated down the stretch. But you can play a little bit looser. The odd thing about this game to me coming up, the fascinating with the Tennessee Alabama matchup, is neither team has played well the last 2 weeks.
yeah,
And usually you see when a team doesn't play well, good teams, you see it in the NFL every week. When they don't play well one week, they play really good the next week. When they play really good the next week, they don't play really well the week after, right? It
yeah,
just it goes back and forth. But both of these teams are coming off back-to-back games where they didn't play well, and it's going to be interesting to see if one of them steps up and plays really good, or if they both kind of struggle and somebody just has to win the game.
yeah.
Tennessee's defense is probably the thing that sticks out to me.
Yep.
I think they've been
They're
pretty
good.
good. They've
Yeah.
been pretty good. And so if I look at all the units on the field, which one would I point to? I point to the Tennessee defense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that could be a real challenge there. As far as Milrow, just real quickly, first of all, people talk about Alabama's running game. Well, the part of the issue is just my opinion, my observation is when your running game goes through your quarterback,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I mean, he's got 77
Correct.
carries. He's got 77 carries.
Wow.
Justice
Yeah.
Haynes, listen to this. Justice Haynes has 39.
God.
All right.
Wow.
Jam Miller has 51.
Mm.
So Milrow is kind of dominating the run game. Now, some of it, of course, is reads where he has to run the ball, where he's going to run the
Correct.
ball based on the read.
Yeah.
All right, and some of it's design runs. But here's the bottom line: for Milrow to be really effective, he's got to run the ball.
Yeah.
So that's really where you are. I mean, that is where it starts for him. Whether people like it, whether he likes it, I know he wants to be considered a passing quarterback, and he's improved significantly in that regard. But for him to be ultra effective, he's got to run the ball, and that has hurt Alabama's, if you want to say traditional, however you want to say it, running game. That has an impact on it.
Yeah, guys, we got to wrap up here. Unbelievable conversation from Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Rodney Orr, Tider, Insider. I know y'all are going to have a great show tonight, 6:30. Catch it live, guys. Tider Insider TV on YouTube. For our executive producer, Brendan Martin, I've got to bolt to Memphis for a quick meeting. But we will be back tomorrow morning. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Folks, we're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. Free speech, alive and well, always on this show. Hit that subscribe button. Check out our sponsors and everybody on sidelines.live. Another great show in line for tomorrow. What a weekend. We just talked about it. Get ready. Have a great one. See you tomorrow.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.